Our readings for today are filled with things that I believe really resonate with us today. We have the concept of, prophets, both true prophets and false prophets, or conflicting prophecies being said. We have, the boat with the disciples in it being tossed around by the storm, the bark of Peter, if you would, which is then, an image for the church to be tossed about by the waves. There is great faith in Peter and taking a step out of the boat, and then a great lack of faith that causes him to begin to sink. And yet, when we look at all of this, I believe we can really resonate with it today. We live in a time when many people are taking our pandemic and proclaiming truths as they see it about what the pandemic represents and how the church should respond to it. And there are conflicting sides. I really found it interesting that in that first reading, we heard that the prophets who prophesize about woe and war and famine are normally believed. And the prophets who prophesy about peace and tranquility often are not believed until it is seen. We know that disorder is not of God. We know that peace and quiet, that is of God. We don't hear God's voice in the great storms, but in the gentle whispers. We find within our own life God most present in those moments when we can calm ourselves and escape our fear. To place our trust in the Lord is to then be able to rest peacefully in his arms, and then to listen carefully to what he says to us in those quiet words of our heart. As we live in a day and an age when people are going to share their opinions about what the church is doing and whether it is right or it is wrong, we don't need to become involved so much in all those heady, important questions. We are in the bark of Peter, the church. And yes, right now a pandemic is causing the waters that this boat, travels on to be shaky and disturbed. And we have to respond accordingly and prudently and with mercy to the pandemic and what it does to especially the most vulnerable of our society. And as that is criticized, and as that is questioned, and as that is debated, for you and for me, it's important for us to realize that we need to stay with Holy Mother Church. It is not only our most secure place to be, but the church is in fact the bride of Christ here on earth. To be able to trust in the church, to be able to trust in the magisterium of the church, the leaders of our church, the ones who proclaim messages of mercy, peacefulness, and above all, put forth the care and the concern of the least of our brothers and sisters, the most vulnerable. Rest in that. Trust in that. Remain in that one true church. And you will find a great peacefulness. In fact, I would say you'll find such great peacefulness in remaining in that church that when you come into contact with those who are unsettled, who are being rocked by the storm of this pandemic, you'll be able to provide for them a safe harbor. You'll be able to provide for them a lighthouse to come towards a place of trust in the Lord. You will be able to be for them your own rock upon which they can see the faith of the church and how the faith that we have in Jesus Christ provides peacefulness and assurance that we can move forward with hope that this ship will reach the other side of this pandemic. It'll reach it safely. It'll reach it in faith. Faith in Jesus Christ's ability to overcome any obstacle to reach us in grace and reach us with mercy and salvation. And we will travel that, of course, grounded in our love for our brothers and sisters, most especially the love for those in most need of protection, in most need of our care.